My fiancé opened a wedding fund, bank account in my name, used it to hide his debts, then tried to guilt me into covering the shortfall. I canceled the wedding. His mom, the future mother-in-law from hell, organized a smear campaign. Then I found out the engagement ring wasn't what it seemed, and that was only the beginning. I'm female, 27, and my ex-fiancé Tom is male, 29. We met 4 years ago, engaged last summer. I'm a nurse. He works in sales. On paper, we were that couple. Pinterest board, shared grocery app, dog named Pepper, rescue mutt, perfect ears. I was never the girl who needed a huge wedding. I wanted a backyard ceremony, good food, and a tiny dance floor where my dad could embarrass me with his famous shoulder wiggle. Tom pushed for bigger. It's once in a lifetime, he'd say. His mom, Linda, seconded every idea, plated dinners, live band, professional fireworks. My dad was gently supportive, wallet closed because he raised me to pay for what I chose. I said yes to a lot of it because love makes you think the future version of you will be richer and more patient than today's you. To make it easy, Tom suggested a separate wedding fund. He'd open the account, we'd each deposit monthly. I didn't scrutinize the details because he swore he'd handle all vendor payments. Spreadsheets stressed me out, and I do 12-hour shifts. Fast forward to 6 weeks ago. Our engagement party was at my aunt's house, fairy lights, sangria, Pepper in a bow tie. Tom texted me 2 hours before. Running late, ex had a crisis. I'll explain. I didn't panic because his ex, Morgan, shares custody of a cat with him from his preemie life, and yes, that's stupid, but the cat is apparently dramatic. I smiled awkwardly through small talk. Tom arrived 3 hours late and acted like confetti could fix it. He said Morgan's building had a gas leak. He had to help evacuate. I said, with her landlord? The fire department? He got defensive, sorry for caring about a living thing. Later, my cousin, who dates a firefighter, casually mentioned there was no gas leak on that street. I decided not to go nuclear that night. I wanted facts, not rage. The next morning, I did something I'd never done. I logged into the wedding fund. Tom had given me the login months ago. Balance, $1,472.93. We were supposed to have $18,000 by now. I checked the transactions. There were transfers out, $1,200, $900, $2,500, note fields blank or labeled fees. Catch-up, promotional hold. There were also credit card payments and cash withdrawals from ATM, machines nowhere near our neighborhood. My stomach dropped like a roller coaster that forgot the track. I called the bank. The rep said the account was solely in my name. He kept saying, your account, and I kept saying our, and he kept correcting me. I asked when it was opened. The date was right, but the signature on the e-form wasn't mine. It was close. My middle initial was wrong. I called Tom. He answered from the shower, which was invented for sitcoms, not real life. I told him to get out, dry off, and listen. Why is the wedding fund in my name? Silence, then the word babe in a tone that sounded like a hostage negotiation. He said he got a better bank bonus if it was attached to a primary checking. So he temporarily used my info because his credit score had a dip from inquiries. He'd make it right. He said the transfers were temporary loans to cover work travel because his expense reimbursements were timing weird. I said, your work travel goes on the corporate card. He pivoted. Look, you were so stressed. I didn't want to burden you. We'll replenish it. I've got a bonus coming. I asked about the engagement party. He said Morgan's cat had a meltdown, and he was the only person who knew her carrier's latch. I didn't know whether to cry or laugh. You left your own engagement party to fix a cat latch? He said I was overreacting. He also said his mom thought I was making everything about money, and maybe I should reflect on that. I hung up. The next day, I took off work, went to the bank, froze the account, changed the online credentials, and asked for a printout of everything with my name. The banker lowered his voice and asked if I was safe. That sentence broke me. I drove home and sat in my car with Pepper, promising a dog who would forget in 20 minutes that I would fix our life. That night, I confronted Tom in person. He cried so hard I wondered whether he practiced. He said he was ashamed of his debt, that the pressure to give me a perfect wedding made him take shortcuts, that he planned to replenish the account after his bonus and a side deal. He listed numbers like a bingo caller. He tried to hug me. I stepped back. I told him the wedding was postponed until we untangled this. He went from crying to icy in 2 breaths. He said postponing would humiliate him at work, and you don't do that to the man you love. Then he said softly, I need you to trust me. I said, I trusted you enough to hand you a future. You put it in my name and drained it. He slept on the couch. I slept with Pepper in my bed, one paw on my heart like a paperweight. The next morning, my phone pinged with a Venmo request from Tom, $250 for band deposit. I didn't answer. 2 hours later, I got a text from Linda. Sweetie, I heard you're struggling with the logistics. Weddings are stressful. Tom's doing his best. Don't make a mountain out of a molehill. Let me know if you need me to take over. I typed and deleted 20 versions of no thank you. I settled on, we're handling it. 3 days later, Tom sent a long-form apology via email, the type that sounds edited by public relations, with bullet points and action items. He promised weekly bank screenshots. He didn't address why Morgan's street had no gas leak. I called Morgan. I expected defensiveness. She was tired. She said there was no gas leak. Tom had come over because he panicked about something and needed to talk to someone who knew him before he became a liar. Her words, not mine. She said she told him to go home. She also said, I'm not your ally, but you're not crazy. That was when the part of me that kept hoping for the spreadsheet to balance finally shut up. I called the venue, I called the band, I called the florist. Everything had been penciled in. Nothing paid in full. The band deposit Tom Venmo requested, unpaid. I canceled the wedding. I thought it would end there. That was cute of me. Update 1. 3 days later, Linda went nuclear on Facebook. I found out because my aunt texted, do not read this with the link. Linda posted a multi-paragraph essay about modern girls who use men and media that teaches entitlement. She wrote my name without tagging me, which is somehow more cowardly. She said I embezzled the wedding fund and left her son with a mountain of bills. My hands shook so hard I spilled tea on Pepper's head. He forgave me in 6 licks. I took screenshots. I did not respond. An hour later, I received a group text from Linda to me, Tom, and 30 relatives, yes, 30, inviting everyone to a family arbitration dinner. She wrote, no lawyers necessary. We will top this out like adults. I muted the thread and considered throwing my phone in the sink. Then, I got a call from the bank's fraud department. The rep asked if I had authorized the online signature when the account was opened. I said no and explained. He said they might need a notarized statement. Here is where I admit a thing I'm not proud of. My first instinct was to protect Tom from legal consequences because I loved him. Then I remembered the Venmo request and the cat latch and Linda's Facebook essay, and I scheduled the appointment. I texted Tom, the wedding is canceled. I'm submitting a fraud statement for the account. Please do not contact me except through email, he wrote. You're ruining both our lives, and then, please don't do this, and then, Linda says we can fix this. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. That night, Pepper and I lay on the floor and looked at the ceiling fan. My ceiling fan has 3 speed settings, and all the shadows they cast look like one bird trying to make up its mind. I told Pepper, we'll be okay. He rolled on his back to invite belly scritches, and I cried into his fur until I tasted dog shampoo. Update 2. 1 week later, the ring. I should have checked sooner. My best friend Jules works at a jeweler. She asked me to bring it in, just to clean it and check the prongs. She didn't say the other phrase. We both knew it. She wiped the stone, held it to the loop, and her eyebrows did a patient little wave. Do you want the soft version or the true version? I said, yes. Summary, the stone wasn't what he said it was. Not a diamond at the carat and grade he bragged about. It was a lab-grown with a different measurement, absolutely pretty, but worth far less than he claimed. That's not a moral failing. Lab-grown is fine. The lie was the failing. The setting was lovely, but the hallmark on the band didn't match the brand he told everyone. The inscription inside our date looked added later. Jules printed me a polite, neutral appraisal. She hugged me, then swore like a sailor into my hair. I emailed Tom. Per appraisal, the ring is not as represented. I will leave it at your mother's house on Saturday between 10 to 10:15 a.m. I CC'd Linda because I wanted witnesses. Linda replied within 4 minutes, we will be out of town. Please respect our boundaries. I replied, I will hand it to your neighbor in the 10 to 10:15 window. Saturday at 10:05 a.m. I knocked on the neighbor's door. They know me. I once rescued their son's drone from a tree using a rake and bad ideas. I handed over a small velvet box and the appraisal in a sealed envelope. At 10:16, my phone rang. Linda. I let it go to voicemail. She said, you thief. You switched the ring to a fake and think we wouldn't notice? The accusation was so confidently wrong that I almost laughed. I texted the neighbor, please confirm you handed them the sealed envelope. He sent back a thumbs up and a photo of Linda taking the box from his wife's hands. I was done being quiet. I posted 3 screenshots to my private Instagram story, visible to mutuals only, the bank letter about the account's name, the appraisal redacted price, and Linda's Facebook rant with the words, this is defamation under it. I didn't tag anyone. People aren't dumb. They did the math. My cousin called. You okay? I said I would be. She said Linda's arbitration dinner had become an intervention where Tom cried in front of a roast chicken and confessed he was in $38,000 of credit card debt. Linda told the room it was my duty as his future wife to support him through a rough patch. My cousin, bless her, said it is not her duty to be your son's ATM. Apparently, Tom's ex Morgan had shown up, invited by Linda as a character witness. Morgan has less filter than a colander. She told the room Tom had lied about the gas leak, that he'd come to her apartment in a panic saying he'd done something stupid with our money, and that she told him to confess. Linda called her a bitter ex. Morgan said, "I'm over him. I'd just like the cat." At this point, an uncle tried to give a speech about forgiveness. Someone dropped a dinner roll. The roast chicken stared into the void. "I don't know. I wasn't there. I only get the highlights." Update 3. 2 weeks later, bank fraud team called back. Because my name was used on the account and the e-signature was forged, they recommended I file a police report to document identity misuse. I made an appointment, printed everything, and went with Jules. The officer was kinder than the fluorescent lighting. He took my statement, asked clarifying questions, and gave me a card. He said in cases like this, outcomes vary. Sometimes it helps with reversing fees. Sometimes it becomes a civil matter if the couple shared finances. I said we did not share finances. Tom had access because I trusted him. The officer said, "You'd be surprised how often that sentence starts these." I sent a PDF copy of the report to the bank and to Tom. He responded, "You didn't have to do that." Linda responded, "You will regret bringing cops into a family matter." I filed both emails into a folder named Evidence and ate 3 Oreos in defiance. Meanwhile, I asked Human Resources at work how to update my emergency contacts and who to talk to about security because Tom knew my schedule. They took it seriously. They added a note to the front desk and told me to park in the well-lit area by the cameras. Jules started meeting me after late shifts, so I didn't walk alone. Pepper contributed by being a menace to squirrels. Here's the part where the story could have taken a rom-com turn. It didn't, because life isn't a streaming service. Tom showed up at my apartment building lobby with a bouquet that looked like it won a pageant. He told the front desk he was here to reconcile. The concierge called me. I said I wasn't coming down. Tom asked to send up a letter. I agreed to receive it at the desk. He wrote that he'd hidden the debt because he was afraid I'd stop loving him. He wrote that he felt like he had to perform wealth to deserve me. He apologized for the cat lie and said he'd panicked about the bank calling him earlier that day about irregularities, which, to be clear, was the result of my fraud report. Every sentence was heartfelt and also smelled like a sheet sprayed with cologne at a mall. At the bottom, he included a repayment plan for the wedding fund, $500 a month until it's back. I did the math. At that rate, we'd be square in 3 years, assuming interest, fees, and the part where life happens didn't exist. Also assuming I wanted to interact with him every month for 3 years. I did not. I emailed him, no further contact. Any communication must go through an attorney. I CC'd myself from a different account, so future me would see past me taking care of us. Update 4. 1 month later, Linda posted a retraction on Facebook. It was couched in misunderstood and miscommunication, but it included the sentence, "I was mistaken about certain financial details." It was clearly written not by her. The commas were friendly and the adjectives were on leashes. I took screenshots, again, because I've learned the internet is a snow globe. Shake hard enough and you can't see the settlement. The bank reversed a bunch of fees, closed the account, and flagged any attempts to open new accounts in my name. I froze my credit with all 3 bureaus. Human Resources issued me a new ID badge because identity protection sometimes means a laminated rectangle that opens doors. Morgan sent me a photo of the cat wearing a ridiculous lemon costume with the caption, "He supports your choices." I don't know when we became weird allies, but grief bends timelines. I started seeing a therapist. I'll call her Dr. K. She said something that stuck. "You didn't miss red flags. You learned a new color." Sometimes, when you're being reasonably trusting, someone paints trust's exact shade and you don't notice the undertone until you're dizzy. I moved Pepper's bed closer to my desk. He snores like a moderate politician. Update 5. 6 weeks later, the part with the neighbor and the mailbox, I got a call from my neighbor drone family. "There's a package at your old place with your name." I haven't been to Tom's building since the cancellation. I asked him to leave it at the desk. I'd pick it up Saturday morning. The package was a shoebox wrapped in brown paper. Inside, the original ring receipt, a printed email chain between Tom and the jeweler, and 2 notes. My heart did a tap dance. My legs didn't join. The receipt confirmed what Jules already told me. Lab-grown, different specs, on sale. Fine. The email chain showed Tom asked the jeweler to engrave a date that matched our engagement, but the date was sent 2 weeks after I actually said yes. He'd told me he had it done the next day because he couldn't wait. A small lie, but lies are like glitter. They travel. The first note was from the neighbor. "Found these in the outgoing mail bin. Didn't want them to get lost. Sorry for everything." The second note was from Tom. Handwritten, uneven, 3 pages. This wasn't a public relations letter, it was messy. He wrote that he had lied about the account bonus, the gas leak, the band deposit, the ring details, a work trip that was actually a casino night with coworkers. In his words, I didn't even gamble much, which is like saying you only set a small fire. He wrote that Linda had pushed him to control the optics because people don't forgive debt, but they forgive romance. He wrote that he wanted to be the man who could afford me. He wrote that he knows now I never asked him to be that man. He ended with, you have every right to move on. I'm paying it back even if you never take the money. I brought the box home. I didn't cry. I made tea, sat on the floor with pepper therapy, and read the letter twice. Then I put everything in the evidence folder. I emailed Tom one sentence, acknowledged, no door, no window. Just the courtesy of a receipt. Update 6, 2 months later. The good part, I didn't expect good part to mean quiet. It's not fireworks or revenge. It's Pepper's paws on hardwood at 6:03 a.m., an audiobook in my ears, and a Saturday that belongs to me. It's Jules texting brunch, and the son being a respectful roommate. It's making a new playlist called Unattended Joy. I edited my About section for the first time since college. I like stories that end with people choosing themselves. It felt cheesy and true. Dr. C would be proud. Tom's repayment plan? A single envelope arrived with a cashier's check for $2,000 and a note that said, first installment. I deposited it into a savings account named Pepper's Patio because my apartment's balcony is tragic and the dog deserves a throne. Whether he finishes paying is no longer my story. Linda sent a Hallmark card that said, wishing you peace on a watercolor background that learned boundaries. Inside, she wrote, I hope the future is kind. That was as close to an apology as we'll get. I'll take it. Morgan and I text sometimes. We have a running joke that her cat and Pepper are star-crossed lovers fighting the balcony patio divide. She sends photos of the cat in seasonal costumes. I send Pepper in bandanas with puns. It's a silly thread that proves life is more than court forms and receipts. Last week, I tried on the dress I bought for my canceled rehearsal dinner. It still fits. I wore it to dinner with friends. No sash, no timeline. Jules did Dad's shoulder wiggle to make me laugh. I did. I thought about the first night after the call, when I lay on the floor staring at the ceiling fan. The fan made silhouettes that looked like a confused bird. Today, it looks like what it is, a circle with 3 blades doing its job. Pepper's snoring right now. It's a soft, faithful sound. The soundtrack of a life that didn't end, just turned. Summary, final.